Foundation Course Kabbalah, Part 2, Lesson 26, Rabbi Michael-ben-Pesach, Portnaar. A line, the kav, a light, entered the empty place. It came all the way down, reaching almost to the point of what is called our world. But it couldn't be received by man yet, because we can only receive when we have a screen. When we say the light enters somewhere, you always have to understand automatically that this means that a lower, a kli which receives a light, first reacts adequate to that light. It can reflect the light. Those two are always connected to each other, and when the light is being reflected, it is being experienced. We say the light enters, but the light never enters or leaves. Everything is perfect and in full serenity, but it is up to a lower, a kli, to be able to experience the light, to make itself receptive for the light, and then the light within is being perceived as if it enters. First, the light entered in the form of a kav, like a single ray, and then came the first receiving of the light. The first receiving of the light came from top to bottom, reaching almost to the point of our world. The first receiving is called Galgalta, which means skull. The spiritual worlds are all built up according to the model of man. Actually, the lower man is built up according to the model of the spiritual worlds. The spiritual construction has the same structure as man. Head is higher, legs are lower, and in between there is the torso, etc. The first receiving is Galgalta. It's the most powerful receiving which corresponds to the light Keter. We speak of the Sfirot Keter, Chokmah, Bina, Ze'ah, and Malchut. In particular, we speak of Kelim. When we speak of lights, we use other names that of course correspond with the Kelim. We can say light Keter, or we can use the right name for it, and that is Yehidah. Light Keter equals Yehidah. In these names is also the essence of the strength of the light itself. Yehidah means the light Keter, and this means unity. When we receive the light Keter, which is in the germ of everything, it is unity. Therefore, we receive full conformity with the source. Chokhmah in Kelim corresponds to the light Chokhmah or Chaya. Light Chokhmah equals Chaya. Chaya originates from the word Chai, life. Chokhmah and therewith corresponding light, Chaya, means the light that gives life. That is, the light of thoughts, light that brings life. The first two higher lights, Yehidah and Chaya, are being experienced in the lower man as surrounding lights, or Makif. But within ourselves, we can only experience the three lower lights. Bina of Kelim corresponds to the light Neshama. Light Bina equals Neshama. This is the highest part of what man can receive before the final correction, Gmar Tikkun. Ze'ah corresponds to the light Ruach. Light Ze'ah equals Ruach. Malchut corresponds with the lowest quality of the light, Nefesh. Light Malchut equals Nefesh. It's very relevant in the wisdom of Kabbalah to always keep in mind what it's about. Is it about Kelim? Then we speak of Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, Ze'ah, and Malchut. If it's about lights, then we speak of the corresponding names, Yehidah, Chaya, Neshama, Ruach, and Nefesh. Sometimes we say light Keter, etc. Then always know that it's about the lights. Always pay attention. Sometimes they are opposite of each other. We have said that the first receiving is Galgalta, and that stretches all the way down, reaching almost to the point of our world. But of course, even as a thin ray, the future creation can't receive it. The light comes to the place that we call the Tabur. Tabur is a navel, the navel of creation, just like man has a navel. First, the light comes to the edge of where the coarsening takes place. It comes to the surface of where the first coarsening takes place, and there it is reflected. This is what we call masach, screen, and the first masach. There the light is reflected, and then the light enters, is being experienced within. So the first coarsening lets the light in, the first contact between light and kli. Of course, there is no kli yet. The kli begins under the tabur. Before or above the tabur is what we call the world Adam Kadmon. There are no kilim there. The kilim are, as it were, only in the germ. It's a small coarsening of the light, but we normally don't speak of what is in the worlds above the tabur. It's even forbidden to speak about it because it would be philosophical, and that is not what we do in Kabbalah. In Kabbalah, we only speak of what can be experienced. We don't speculate. So that was the first receiving. A light came, light Chokhmah. The quality of the light Chokhmah, but that is, of course, of the kind of Yehidah. Two lights exist, light Chokhmah, which is light of the creation, and light Hasidim, light of mercy, which is weaker. It has been weakened, but very bright, of course. Light Chokhmah can be of Yehidah, that is the highest, and Chaya is light of Chokhmah as well. Neshama, Ruach, and Nefesh are lights of Hasidim, lights of mercy. The first receiving, light Chokhmah, reached to the Tabur, and no further. Why no further? Because there was no strength yet in the creation to receive that light. The high intelligence has invented this deliberately in order to find a way to always let arise a full kli. So we see a very thin ray enters a very airy kli, which is not a kli yet, and only after the tabur. Under the tabur, the true kli is received. True kli means that it can decide for itself if it wants to receive the light or not. A mature, completed kli, such as the case in man. That is the tabur, and what is under the tabur is there is no light. The light Chokhmah can't come under the tabur because there is no strength, but the light reaches the tabur, and there is also a screen. A screen means a different screen than above, but a screen that doesn't let the light enter further than it already has entered. The screen from above, at the beginning of the light, serves to completely reflect the light. The light can't enter after the tabur or under the tabur, but that lower part does receive a gleam of the light. So the light shines from above, but it doesn't enter. This is a very important light that also is experienced. It's the light of mercy, but it doesn't enter. It's being perceived, as it were, from a distance. That limitation is made by the creation, as it were, but the light itself knows no limitations. The light tries to enter deeper and deeper, and tries to come through the masach, but the light can't bear it in part under the tabur. Then it will reflect him completely, remove completely from kilim to try to receive it again, but then of a lesser strength. I'll try to explain this with the example of a fountain, the principle of a fountain. We know a fountain has tubes, one a little higher than the other, and to the sides they are lower. Of course, the water of a fountain comes from a different direction than the light, but imagine there is a waterfall. The water comes down in a very thin line, but with high speed and concentration. It comes all the way down and reaches the bottom. It clashes against the bottom and then goes back up again. When the water goes back up, that is comparable with the reflection of the light. The water that reaches the hard bottom with high speed goes back up again. It goes up again, but never as high as where it came from in the first place. It loses strength due to the clashing at the bottom. The strength of the water which is going up is always less than when it came down. The same is with light. It rebounds back up, but a part of it stays under the upper part of where it came from. In the spiritual worlds, for example, a light comes from 10 meters down and is reflected till 7 meters. The upper 3 meters are called Rosh, head, and the reflected light doesn't reach them. It only goes back up 7 meters and not 10. The reflected light, just like the fountain, expands to the sides. I indicate this with arrows. When the water flows back up again, it expands to the sides. It doesn't go along the center where the light or water entered, but it embraces, as it were, the stream that came from above. The stream that comes from the top down is light Chokhmah. The stream that comes from the bottom up is the reflected light, or Choser, the light that embraces. That is the principle of the fountain. After the reflecting of the light Yechida, which was in Galgalta, comes the second receiving. The light is again reflected up till the 7 meters of the first receiving and embraces that light, and that is the second receiving. We call the second receiving Ab. Ab is Partzuf Chokhmah. Partzuf means 10 Sfirot, the full Partzuf of the type of Chokhmah. All of the same type. Partzuf Chokhmah means that everything in him is of the sort of Chokhmah. Keter de Chokhmah, Chokhmah de Chokhmah, etc. Everything in him is of the sort of Chokhmah. It is like someone in our world who has a certain style. A person wears only clothing of a particular brand and everything is of that brand. Clothing, purses, shoes, etc. That is the style of the person. In the Partzuf Chokhmah, we also see different things, but all are of one brand, of one corresponding quality, Chokhmah. That is the second receiving. Partzuf Chokhmah also has light or Chokhmah in itself, which is almost the same as the light Yechida. It is a little thicker, but it is still the light Chokhmah, the light of the creation. And what is holy? Everything that experiences 10 Sfirot in itself. Everything has 10 Sfirot, but what experiences 10 Sfirot in itself is holy. The second receiving is being received under the Galgalta. Let's say Galgalta is 10 and a new receiving comes at the height of 7, and that is a newer quality of light. It can't receive the light of the sort of Galgalta anymore, the light Yechida. It is now being received in a different flavor in Chokhmah. We call that Ab. Ab is the name according to the composition of the lights of the 4-letter name. We have learned this already. Together this is 72, and that is shown with the letters Ab. So the second receiving is Ab, and the light comes again to the Tabur, and doesn't go further downwards. Of course, the purpose is to let the light come all the way down, almost up to our world, spiritual worlds. We see that provisionally, the two receivings only come to the Tabur, to the half of the creation, as it were, and we see that the Partzuf, Abeh, is already weakened, just like in all the next receivings, or all the next outflowings of the fountain. It's being weakened, and is being spread in the width. The light comes to the Tabur of the Partzuf Chokhmah, and from the Tabur the light tries to enter, because for the light no limitations exist. Only a Kli imposes limitations on itself. Of course, here everything has been done by the light. Later, when man arose, also the free choice to receive the light arose. How to receive the light? Can I receive it or not? But here in the worlds, all is done by the light itself. The Creator builds the whole structure as He pleases, according to His high intellect, so that later man, who is made in the image of the Creator, would be able to do the same, to go upwards, to bring himself in conformity with the light, and thus comes to his fulfillment. So the light Chokhmah comes to the Tabur, but it can't come under the Tabur, because also for the light there's no strength to receive. Even the light Chokhmah, which is already a little weakened, but is still light Chokhmah, there is no strength yet to receive the light Chokhmah. Then, as it were, the Kli, which is no Kli yet, reflects the light back upwards, as it can't handle it, because the light keeps trying to enter. Not only the light that has entered tries to enter through the tabor, but there's also exists a large part of the light that is still outside, and which only exerts pressure, but it can't come in. Like we experience that we are surrounded by oceans of pleasure, but we can't receive it because we have no strength yet to receive it. All kinds of other things because we are not able to do that, but we do experience the pressure. When you look out your window and you see your neighbor sitting in his Ferrari, and you know you only have used a bicycle, then you feel pressure. You feel that pressure is being extended or exerted on you. Then you tell yourself that it's all nonsense. I absolutely don't need this wish to own a Ferrari. Moreover, it doesn't bother you that you don't have a Ferrari, but the fact that your neighbor does have one bothers you. That is your problem. You repel your feeling, your wish for a Ferrari. You repel it. You say, it's absolutely not relevant. I don't need to experience this pressure of my neighbor having a Ferrari. I don't need it. In my situation, I absolutely don't need it. You remove this wish from your heart because you can't get it. These are all reactions we can see in the creation, in the structure of the worlds. The same is here. The light can't come under the tabor, but pressure is being exerted both from the light that is inside and from the surrounding light. They push and put pressure on the tabor in order to try to enter. Step by step, you will start to feel this in yourself, but we're not talking about man yet. Man comes under the tabor. Just a few more words about above the tabor, where the world of Adam Kadmon is, and then we go under the tabor, because that is what it's all about. Under the tabor of the creation, in the structure of the worlds, is where man is. That is where four worlds are created: Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. Within that structure of those worlds is where the basis is within which man is created. It forms the platform or carrier within which man is created. That and our world. We will feel that a lot more intensive because there are the strengths that correspond with our strengths. At the Partsuf Ab, the light is also being reflected upwards. There's still strength in the fountain to let it expand to the sides, and that becomes the third cover. We call it coverings in language of Kabbalah. It is difficult to translate. It covers everything that is newer. On extra receiving covers a part of the higher receiving. Again, in the same way, 10 against 7. Every new receiving only covers 7 particles, the lower 7 particles of a higher receiving, of every first coming higher receiving. We call that from his shoulders, as it were. Man can't comprehend the head of a higher. What is a covering? Covering means that a lower receiving is at the same height as a higher receiving. What height? It is at the same height with a higher. The part of a lower that is at the same height, of course spiritual height, spiritual in strengths, with that part of a higher means that they correspond to quality. This is very relevant. That is the conformity. When all the 10 parts of a lower receiving cover the 7 parts of a higher receiving, then a lower receiving can experience with its 10 parts the 7 lower parts of a higher receiving, and also gets light from it because they are at the same height. The third receiving is called Sag, after its gematria. The Sag is the name of the quality of Binah. We return to the 5 stages of the direct light: Keter, Chokhmah, Binah, Ze'ah, and Malchut. Keter gives light to Chokhmah, 100% light. Chokhmah passes it on downwards. Chokhmah is a male strength which receives 100% and passes it on. These are all qualities of the higher strengths that are valid always and everywhere. Chokhmah wants to give the light to Binah. Binah is female and she doesn't need the light. Why not? Of course she needs the light. How can she be without light? But Binah is adjacent to Chokhmah, just below. She is very close to Chokhmah, and this is a very important principle. The closer 2 elements of creation are to each other, the more they are in accordance, and the more one receives from the other. The lower from a higher She is next to Chokhmah. And of course, there is sufficient radiation from Chokhmah that reaches her to provide her with the most necessary. But her strength, her quality, is the strength of to give. Bina doesn't want to receive. To give means to reflect. Chokhmah receives and also gives downwards. Chokhmah has that 100% of the light, and the lower part of the creation, Bina, Ze'ah, and Malchut, must know that they can receive that from Chokhmah. He has that, just like a father of a family who earns the money and gives it to his wife for his family. When you ask, it will be given to you. Remember this very well, because if you don't have a question, how can you receive? Of course, you don't ask for something material. You ask the Creator for essential things, for the strength to comprehend Him, the wisdom to comprehend Him, because that is where all the light comes from Chokhmah, the wisdom. Bina only reflects the light. She doesn't want the light. She doesn't want to receive the light, Chokhmah, because what pleases her and is like nutrition to her is the light Hasidim, the light of mercy, of to give. It is the same in our world. She structurally doesn't need the light Chokhmah. Only when her children, Ze'ah and Malchut, ask for the light Chokhmah, she turns to Chokhmah. We speak about her children because they originate from Bina. Ze'ah and Malchut are, as it were, her children, while Ze'ah, with respect to Malchut, is like a man to his wife. When they like children, Ze'ah and Malchut ask for the light Chokhmah, then Bina turns to Chokhmah and asks for the light. They do need the light Chokhmah. Malchut needs it urgently because the strength of Malchut is very lower or coarser of strengths, and to be able to illuminate her, a lot stronger light is needed, the light Chokhmah. While Bina is still very thin, Keter, Chokhmah, and Bina are the qualities, the higher qualities of the Creator. So only when man, prayer, a request is submitted from below, then Bina turns to Chokhmah. We, man, are below the 5 Sfirot. Man has to turn to Malchut, and then Malchut unites with Ze'ah, and both come in their request to Bina. Then Bina turns to Chokhmah and asks for light. They make a zivug, a mutual confluence. In our world, it is the intercourse, a confluence between the male and female. In the higher spiritual worlds, where everything comes from, the light Chokhmah penetrates from a higher to lower. The interaction is brought about through the way a lower looks at a higher, or a higher looks at a lower. By looking, when you look at the light in the direction of the light, then you also receive the light. Looking at each other is already a form of interaction from both sides. When Malchut and Ze'ah ask, then Bina turns her face to Chokhmah, and then she receives from Chokhmah. Chokhmah is willing to give her, and then Bina receives the light Chokhmah. A little bit of light Chokhmah, and she gives that to Ze'ah and Malchut. Actually, she gives Or Chasidim, the light of mercy, but mingled with a little Or Chokhmah, wisdom, of the quality of the recipe which the lower Ze'ah and Malchut are able to receive. It's Or Chokhmah, but the level of Ze'ah and of the level of Malchut. We see it's in the nature of Bina, in her quality, that she does everything possible to provide her lower, her children, Ze'ah and Malchut, with light, nutrition, bread. And here we also see the third receiving of the light. Just like at the third weakening of the fountain, the light now has weakened so far that it has become the light Hasidim. Sag is Bina and is located above with the light Chokhmah, but she doesn't need it. She is fully in Chokhmah, but still she doesn't want it. It's not relevant to her. It doesn't give her life or lust for her life, as it were, only to give it to her children. For the light Hasidim, light of mercy, there is no prohibition to let it go through under the tabor. The prohibition was made by the creation itself in order not to let the light Chokhmah enter under the tabor, because otherwise there wouldn't be a strength to receive it kosher, pure. The creation was made in a kosher way, not to receive the light egoistically. By looking at the creation, at the structure of the worlds, we can see that it was made in such a way that the kli, that what is being formed, all the worlds, spiritual worlds, that is kli, that the kli is not able to receive egoistically. They can't and have no wish to receive egoistically if there is no strength to receive the light, whichever then it is not being received. The kli, or the world, makes a masach, screen, not to let the light enter, while in man there is an egoistic receiving. Look at the nature. Neither stones nor plants nor animals receive something egoistically. A lion catches an animal he can eat, and he only eats 15 kilos, as much as his stomach or wish is. He can eat 15 kilos and no more at a time. He eats 15 kilos and the remainder he leaves for others to eat. He doesn't need more. He's absolutely not egoistic. He can't eat more. Egoistic means that he can eat more than he needs, above his level. Man can. We can, and constantly we try to receive egoistically more than we need. That's where all the misery comes from. So there is no prohibition to receive mercy. This is also why we can give so much and show mercy in our world as much as we want, and man becomes better. You can give more and more. And then the light Sag comes, and Sag is of the quality of Bina, the third receiving. She has within herself the urge, the nature to give. She wants to fill the shortage of her children. She gives to them when they are in need. And we see there is a shortage under the tabor. The light doesn't enter because there is no strength. Then Sag reaches out her light under the tabor, as it were, all the way down to lend a helping hand to Ze'ah and Malchut, which are under the tabor. Ze'ah and Malchut, the strengths, are under the tabor, always. So the receivers, the real kilim, are always under the tabor, and thereby she meets Ze'ah and Malchut. She tries to give them the nutrition that way. What kind of nutrition? First, there was darkness, and now she tries to give them light, even if it is just light Hasidim, light of mercy. It comes from above, the tabor, from above, and that is already a great light for Ze'ah and Malchut to make it attractive for them. So there are 3 receivings above the tabor, and later there are 2 more receivings. Everything exists of 5. There's also the receiving of Man, which is of the level of Ze'ah, and the receiving Bon. Again, there's also the receiving of Ma, which is the level of Ze'ah, and the receiving Bon, which corresponds with Malchut. And they're all above the tabor. But we don't use them, and therefore we don't draw them. Further, we won't speak much about it because we are not allowed to speak about it. Otherwise, it becomes contemplative, and that is no food for us. Food from above for man is only what can be experienced. To experience. When I eat a sandwich, then I experience that. I experience something as food or something else. But when I look at a cookery book and see a beautiful dish and I'm very hungry, I look at that beautiful dish while I'm so hungry, I haven't eaten all day, and I talk about it. Does that help? That is what philosophers and theologians do. They talk endlessly about a dish that they haven't tasted, and that can't give them any nutrition. It's all that simple. What we learn requires surrender. Do you understand? Surrender to yourself, not to me or any teacher or whoever, but only to yourself, to certain layers in yourself that have not yet been activated, and you want to keep yourself the way you are. You say, I want to stay in this sphere. It is very difficult. Difficult means that your will to surrender yourself to the higher has to grow. You don't lose yourself, but in order to be able to receive higher and higher, you receive lower. The light comes deeper in yourself. Why? How can you receive the higher? Receive the higher. Because you have amplitude. You can reflect higher, like the fountain, and then you receive deeper. Higher also means deeper. When you learn Kabbalah, you will penetrate deeper and deeper into all the layers of your soul. We let the light penetrate us, and not what we usually do when we are having only selective feelings. I feel this and I feel that, and this I like, but that I don't like. Often you have to make an effort to soften what is like stone in yourself, and then you say no, so far, and no further. That's what it's like in society, but in yourself it shouldn't be like that. You always have to work on yourself. The plan of the Creator was that we will become just like Him. What does that mean? Just like Him. That we experience the whole range of where the light has to be experienced within yourself. So man has within himself the whole structure, and when we experience the whole kav, we come to fulfillment. But who wants fulfillment? Who wants that? Look at my brothers. They live nice and neat. They do good, feel divine, and they do what is written in Torah. But actually, they still do nothing. Of course, they do something, but only with hand and feet, and that is not enough. We will learn why that is not enough. Because doing with hand and feet is only in the world Asiyah, which is adjacent to our world. That is what religious people do, only what is adjacent to our world and no higher. We will learn, for example, that later, under the Tabur, come the worlds Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Later, all these worlds, layers of strengths, come here below. Above, there was only the world Adam Kadmon. Here on earth, regarding the teachings, by learning Torah Pshat, simple, you will only reach Asiyah. So by learning Torah Pshat, just like it is written as a historical story, Moses went there, etc., and doing the prescriptions with hand and feet, you will do this and not do that, you will only reach Asiyah. Our world is a part of Asiyah. It's an extension of our world. Then you only experience Asiyah, the lowest world and our world. If a person engages in the Mishnah, the codifications of the teachings, the Jewish laws, and the Midrash, the allegorical narratives with the right intention, because only reading out loud won't help, because without the right intention it means nothing. Then you already experienced the world Yetzirah. When a person already learns the comments of the Mishnah, the Talmud, 62 parts of the thick books, and then one experiences Bria. And when someone learns Kabbalah, then you experience and learn the world Atzilut every day. Of course, you have to learn everything, but the interesting thing is that everything that is higher contains what is lower in itself. That is the law. So someone who learns Kabbalah indirectly also learns Talmud, the Mishnah, and the Torah. Someone who only learns Talmud learns all of Bria and Mishnah and Torah. Mishnah are the Jewish laws. People who only learn Torah, like the Jewish populace, feel nice and comfortable. They live in Asiyah. They don't need completion. But if you want to learn Kabbalah, you have to make yourself receptive. You have to raise within yourself an inner intelligence, an inner drive for the higher, for the completion. The people who learn Torah don't need that. They like living in our world. It is beautiful. Everything is fine. All is qualitative. When you learn Kabbalah, you will live in Atzilut all day long. Whatever you do, Atzilut remains shining on you. Why? If you say to yourself, I'm a nobody, that's my goal in life. While you are young, are you then able to reach a higher goal? No, absolutely not, because that's your goal. I don't mean a job or so. You have a goal in life, and you have to accomplish it. A person can be a simple farmer and come to completion, even sooner than a great professor, a Nobel Prize winner, or a Madonna. It is up to you. Most people say more, 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 but that farmer can already say no. I have enough. He has a feeling that he has enough, and therefore he can reach his fulfillment. All of which we speak is qualitative. Do you understand? That was just to make some comparisons. Nothing higher has been given to man than learning the spiritual of Atzilut. Why? In Asiyah, you only have the light Nefesh. You receive the light Nefesh because Asiyah corresponds with Malchut. In Yetzirah, you receive the light Ruach. You can try to learn the Mishnah by heart day and night, but it has no higher strength. It can give you no higher strength than Ruach. Someone can learn Talmud by heart, but he only receives a light Neshama, a little Neshama. But really, Neshama, not really, Neshama, but let's say a small part. In Absolute, you receive the light Haya, the light of life. Everything comes from Atzilut, and you can't receive that from all the others. Of course, you can learn Kabbalah as your main dish and learn little Talmud and other things. Ari had the strength to learn it all. The spiritual comes from Atzilut. Of course, all the other worlds, Talmud, etc., are absolutely spiritual as well, but they only learn it for Asiyah, for our world. For the world which is adjacent to our world, it is just a little higher. But Atzilut is much higher, and they don't want that. With all their beautiful rituals, but it is not what the Creator wants. It is absolutely holy what they do, but before they become mature and come to their development, it won't help. Doing that without a person awakening for the spiritual, and that he makes the inner movement, longs for the inner spiritual movement, is ridiculous. Now, we can come down. We have waited a long time for this. Which shortage is still there? We have said that Ein Sof is perfection, and perfection wants perfection. Everything that is perfect can't create imperfection. Perfection has to create perfection. Therefore, also our Maker is perfect, and He wants us to strive for perfection as well. An animal doesn't have to strive for perfection. An animal obtains his perfection with the perfection of man. All forms of nature obtain their perfection along with the elevation of man, but they don't have that program. Only man has in his program that he has to aim for perfection. Torah gives us the way to the perfection. It's not a story. The Greek have their story. Jews have their story. Christians have their story. And what is the difference? Torah has nothing to do with all these stories, not a word. We will see what it is with the help of the Creator, or I hope that the Creator will give me strength and that He will show us what Torah is. Not one word is mine. We have seen the three receivings. The first receiving of the strength, Gargalta, which is the first and highest receiving and the most powerful. Then we have the second receiving of Ab, and the third receiving of Sag. We have had these three receivings and two more above of the world Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon means former man or antique man, and that means higher. What happens after that? Under the tabur, no light enters. If the light doesn't enter, then there is shortage. We first said that there did come the radiation from below. The light first came to the tabur, and a glimpse shone downwards. To be able to let the next radiation enter, all the light had to go up again. So the light came to the tabur, and let's say a glimpse of the light came down. All came up again, and then the second light, the second receiving Ab, came, which is also the light Haya. The first light is light Yehida, and that light can't come down. It's also light Chokhmah. Light Chokhmah comes up to a certain place, up to the Masach at the Tabur. It can't come in. Chokhmah. You need strength to receive Chokhmah, but the third receiving is already weakened. Just like the fountain, not everybody or every ground can receive the first stream. You need solid ground. The third receiving is Sag, and Sag is already weakened with respect to Galgalta, and that is already the strength of the Bina. And the strength of Bina is also called Or Hasidim. Or Chokhmah is the strength of the light, of the creation, and you need a heavy masach, enormous strength, to be able to receive that. Bina is Sag, and is the third receiving. Or Chokhmah can't come down anymore, and that is also called Tzimtzum Aleph, the first limitation. The first limitation was on the light Chokhmah, that the light Chokhmah can't enter the Malchut. Where do we see Malchut? I don't want to speak about above the Tabur, but above are the Sfirot of the head, Rosh, Keter, Chokhmah, and Bina. But actually, there are no Sfirot in Adam Kadmon. Sfirot means there are already formed Kilim, but above the Tabur, everything is very airy, and that's why we don't talk about Kilim. Here, there is only one Kli with 5 flavors. The first Galgalta is just one Kli. Not really a Kli, but everything is in that Kli. Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, Ze'ah, and Malchut. But it is only one Kli, Kli Malchut. The intention is to build up the 5 compartments of different flavors. So only the third receiving, whereby the Or Hasidim is, the Sag, is there no prohibition for the light Or Hasidim to let it enter under the Tabor. What does that mean? Just like a mother, she can be a prime minister of a country and also play games with her child. She has the strength to be a prime minister. She can bring up a male strength, as it were, but her natural strength is Or Hasidim. Exactly the same is here. When it is above the Tabur, the Sag is as male, and she can come down, and that is like an extension. There is no prohibition for Or Hasidim, and Or Hasidim means to give. Light of to give, but not to receive. Sag is Bina. Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, Ze'ah, and Malchut. Chokhmah receives 100% light from Keter, and Chokhmah gives to Bina, which is opposite of him. Bina is the strength of to give. She wants to reflect, the first reflection of light. Bina doesn't want that light. Why? The quality of Bina is only to give. She doesn't need it because everything that is adjacent affects each other. For instance, look at the areas where Holland is adjacent to Germany. The languages are somewhat interwoven into a dialect. In adjacent areas, it is closer to Germany than to Holland, as it were. Therefore, your surroundings are very important. Surroundings mean the people with whom you associate. When you learn Kabbalah, you need to know very well with whom you associate, because it always influences you. The only thing you can choose is your environment. So choose a good environment, not an environment with people who mock. They will say to you, "What are you doing? What does it give you?" They deride your spiritual work. You have to bring up strength to carry through and to connect yourself with those people that have the same goal, or good books when you don't know any people. And we have the Creator. I wish for everybody to only have contact with the Creator. Eventually, we only have one contact with the highest, and that is the Creator. The rest is additional. You will love the whole world a little only because you have a relationship with the Creator. The only creating strength because He gives the ultimate of Himself, and you have to learn that as well. Look at the Bina. She doesn't need the light Chokhmah. Why? She's constantly under radiation of Chokhmah. They are side by side. Chokhmah has to give to Bina, so she does receive radiation. She is, as it were, in Or Chokhmah, but she doesn't need it. She only wants Hesed, or Hasidim, to give love. For example, she doesn't care if her husband becomes a Nobel Prize winner. It's of no interest to her. She has to work hard and has power, but she doesn't care. She doesn't want his money, as she only wants to sit with him at home or maybe go out. He has to go to meetings and do important things, but she says, "I don't need your money or power. Just be next to me and give me some of your light, and not only give it to the country." It is exactly the same with Bina. She is the light of Chokhmah, but she doesn't need it. We will see that everything is built up that way, as Bina is in the light of Chokhmah. But her children, Ze'ah, and Malchut do need light Chokhmah. They are hungry. Both Ze'ah and Malchut need the light Chokhmah. When they have shortage and need Chokhmah, they do man, a prayer just like us. With respect to the higher, we are just like them, only we are at the bottom, and we ask the Malchut, and the Malchut goes to the Bina. When they want it, Bina gives it. Bina turns to Chokhmah, the father. She looks at him, and we call that Zivug. Zivug means that they look at each other. Because great Kabbalists could look at something, and they moved that in the inner, or enormous changes came. When Shimon Bar Yochai, who wrote the Zohar in 13 years in a cavern, got out of the cavern for the first time after those 13 years, he saw a farmer with his cart and an ox. He looked at them and he thought, such great teachings, great relief and perfection has the Creator given us. Now look at the farmer. He has remained the same in all these 13 years. With regard to the strengths, he found it unfortunate, and then the cart went up in flames. It caught fire because of his strength, and only by his looking. Can you imagine? While of course it was not a good strength, when he met the greatest sages of that time, they told him to go back to the cavern and spend a little more time there, so he would not radiate that burning strength, but would also obtain the strength of mercy to compensate and rule over that burning strength. Sometimes people come to us and they can't handle the strength. Everything I tell has no literal meaning. I don't speak a word about our world. Torah also doesn't speak a word about our world. When Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of Zohar, came outside and he saw the farmer working on the land, it's of course not meant literal. He saw an illiterate man, and he had shown this farmer, as it were, that he did not do his duty to experience the spiritual, but that he instead learned the Torah literally as a story. This you can compare with someone that just works on the land with an ox and doesn't want to get a tractor or so. He doesn't want progress. That is the intention. Of course, we never speak about our world, although in our world all these strengths are being manifested. Of course, we also always look. We also always work with our strengths of our world. When you learn Kabbalah, you will learn to be extremely cautious in everything you do. You will learn the deeper meaning of all kinds of things we do in our world, and you will be amazed by it. Bina only gives when it's being asked. She then turns to Chokhmah, as it were, and she receives face to face the light, and she passes it on. All these qualities are interwoven in the light. In the singular light, all these relations are, as it were, already in potential interwoven, but not yet unfolded. And now we come to the unfolding of the whole creation. The representative of the Bina is the Sag, the female, the third receiving. Keter is Galgalta, Chokhmah is Ab, and Bina is Sag. Ze'ah and Malchut are at the lower side. Bina has the natural tendency and assignment to meet the shortage of Ze'ah and Malchut. She will of course go down. There is no prohibition for Or Chasadim, light of mercy. Therefore also in our world we can do as much good as we want. We will not be saturated by doing good. The more you do good, the more you want to do good. One mitzvah leads to another mitzvah. If you do one prescription, it will draw you to do another prescription. The more prescriptions you fulfill, the more strength you obtain to do other prescriptions, and conversely. If you commit a sin, so you try to receive in your egotistic kalim, then it will draw you to another sin, even a heavier sin. It will draw a person downwards until he is lost and designated on psychiatry. Then suddenly a person is arrested by the police because he did all kinds of terrible things. He shoots at the police, etc., and then people say, this man has been in a psychiatric institution for 17 years, and we have tried all kinds of psychiatric treatments, but nothing works. He has violence issues. This means that he is being drawn from one sin to another. So you have to be very careful. Therefore, Kabbalah means working on yourself, not only to understand. During weekdays, you must attempt to do good and handle your strengths carefully, not only to protect yourself, but also to bring yourself in accordance with the teachings. And you have to do the prescriptions. Bina, Sag, just goes down. When does that mean goes? What does that mean goes down? The light comes, there is no prohibition on giving. Therefore, for instance, the Salvation Army goes to the red light district to sing there. They want to accomplish something good in that heavy environment. Exactly the same as with the Bina. She sees the shortage of her children because no light can come there. She wants to foresee them with her light, or Hasidim, so they will receive from it. It's a great light because it comes from above the Tabor. What does it mean that one covers the other? Pay attention, this is very important. The first receiving is Galgalta. Which part of the Galgalta is covered by Ab? Its lower part, except the head, Rosh. The lower can never cover the head, Rosh, of the higher. What does cover mean? To comprehend. At first, the fountain was big, and later it weakens. The fountain can only become smaller. When it flows back up again, it can't contain the higher part, the head. But what does cover mean? It's just like two cylinders. Ab surrounds Galgalta, but it can't contain the head. The head of a higher can't be contained by a lower. It doesn't have to. The lower covers the higher from his shoulders. Let's say that it is a lampshade. Stronger light is in the head, and the lower, it shines less. With respect to Galgalta, Ab is the lower, just like the second part of the fountain is lower. Then it only receives the light of Galgalta from the shoulders down. So it can only receive light from lower than the head. And Sag is lower than Ab. Sag can't reach the head, Rosh of Ab, but again, only from his middle. They cover each other means light that is covered by another. A lower covers a higher. Covers means only that part of a lower that covers a higher. A lower covers a higher always from the shoulders down. A lower feeds itself on a lower light. A lower feeds itself on a lower light than the head of a higher. Sag receives light from Ab, and Ab receives from Galgalta. The pure light that is in the head, Rosh of Galgalta, is not experienced by anyone except Galgalta. Ab has its own Rosh. Head, Rosh are the first three Sfirot. And this can't be experienced by Sag because it is higher. It can't experience it directly. That is the intention of the covering of Partsufim on each other. The covering of an object, one kli in another, that it realizes or comprehends the higher. So a lower can comprehend a higher only from under its head and further down. It hangs, as it were, on and under the head. The Sag has come all the way down, and now here are certain processes whereby the four worlds, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, are being formed. Under the Tabur. Why? Also to fill again and to build up the same system. To have more receivings under the Tabur so the light can fill the creation there as well. Somewhere in the Atzilut, the Bria, man, the Adam, is being created. We are all in our world. Do you hear that? Our world. And in our perception, we have to bring ourselves in conformity with these worlds as they are while we are still in our world. Then we can already experience the world's Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. That is what is being required of us. It is important what happened under the Tabur. That is our source. The first receiving was Galgalta, the strength of Keter and the strongest light. The Ab was already the strength of Chokmah. There are 5 lights, and they correspond with Keter, etc. Keter is Yechidah, Chokmah is Haya, Bina is Neshama, Ze'ah is Ruach, and Malchut is Nefesh. All these names also represent the quality, the strength of this quality. Nefesh is the lowest. It means the animal soul in man. It is the most crude part of the soul. Ruach already means spirit. It is already a bit thinner than Nefesh. Thinner also means higher. Neshama is what already breathes in. It is even higher and more fine than Ruach. Ruach has to do with to smell. Neshama has to do with the breathing of man and is higher. Haya means life-giving, light, and that is crucial for us. Here all the corrections come from because that is the light of life. It's already in the word Haya. Yechida means unity, light that gives unity. In the names, you can already see the strengths of the lights. When we speak of Kelim, we speak of Keter, Chochma, Bina, Ze'ah, and Malchut. When we speak of the lights, we speak of Yechida, Chaya, Neshama, Ruach, Inefesh. Try to repeat this, and then you automatically will start to remember it. It's not difficult, but don't learn it by heart. This is not necessary in the Kabbalah. Because, can you receive light when you learn something by heart? No. Achievements are of our world, but in the true world of strengths, you receive nothing from learning. You have to see it, repeat it for yourself. When you try not to remember, you will remember. By trying to remember, you will not get an experience of the divine. The right kind of curiosity, trying to understand and to receive it, making yourself small for the sake of the higher, longing for the higher, that will help. It is not easy because our ego always wants to conquer everything. That is also good. That is also the strength of our ego. Every man has that. We all want the winning lottery ticket, so we could have everything in the world. This is very good, though. We don't have to destroy our ego like religions try to make us believe. You need to make yourself small because you want to be big. What does this mean? To be big means that you want to experience the whole range of strengths. By accepting the greatness of the light of the Creator and His eternal laws, and through this becoming the master of your own state. Your body, all you have, that is your kingdom. There is nothing else. Of course, there are other entities, but this is your state, and this is the work that has been given to you. You have to be the king and rule over the physical, the emotional, etc. Then you don't need anybody, not a psychiatrist or whoever. You only need others when you don't know yourself yet. So, we need to know ourselves. Exactly the same schedule as in man, lights and kelim. Important is to listen carefully and to long for your connection with the source of life. That's what it's all about. Nothing else matters. No other redeemer will help us. Galgalta is the first receiving and means skull. The terminology that is being used is because all has been built up to the higher man and the lower man. The higher man means in strengths, just like man has been built up. What is light? And what is kli? Light is what fills the creation, the receivings, the first receiving. The Galgalta is already a kli. Not yet a kli, but it is already a coarsening of the light. It is a form of a kli, the beginning of the forming of a kli. Look at the whole history and see what will happen now. The Creator wants to create the creation. The creation is a kli that can receive the light, but which is not a slave of the light, but it can receive and wants to receive in accordance with the strengths. If it has strength, then it receives light. If it has no strength, it will receive no light. Freedom of the will. What's in Galgalta? We always have two lights, or strength is Yechida, and Galgalta is the Kli. The second is Ab. Partzuf Chochma, light or strength, is Chaya, and Ab is Kli. The third is Sag, light Bina, or Neshama, and Sag is Kli. When we learn, what we learn has only been given to Jews. The spiritual has only been given to Jews. They have to carry it out day and night. Jews have no other task in this life than to study all this day and night and draw the strength to themselves and to the earth. If you see a Jew who only thinks of himself when you have to doubt, you have to doubt his Jewishness. A Jew is a person who doesn't live for himself. This means that he doesn't live for his egoism. If you see that he lives differently, that means something is wrong with him. A Jew is someone who always accepts the will of the only master, the King of Kings. He may be a mayor, that's not bad, but it has to be a side issue. A Jew with a capital J has to only accept the King of Kings and nothing else.